with input and input prices, it's important to kind of think about what inputs actually are by definition. Think of an input as anything that goes into the production process. If the prices of inputs rise, all else equal, we can expect that the costs of production to rise, and as a result, the supply curve will shift up and to the left, a decrease in supply. We can expect sellers to require a higher price to produce any particular level of output. Falling input prices, which suggests falling cost of production, will be associated with a downward rightward shift in the supply curve, which just suggests that for any given level of production, settlers are willing to accept a lower price because the costs of production have decreased. Technological improvements, i.e. Improvements to the way that things get made, allow settlers to produce a given level of output with fewer inputs and at lower cost. Conversely, reductions in technology or losses of technology require that producers use more inputs. Visually, we can look at an improvement in technology as ultimately leading to a rightward shift in the supply curve, which we see in this left panel here. Here, at a given level of prices, as technologies improve, sellers are able to sell more, which again we can also view as sellers' willingness to accept has declined for any given level of output because costs have decreased. Lost technology, however, is going to lead to that leftward shift in the supply curve because at any given price, sellers are now able to sell less, or conversely, at any given quantity, sellers now require higher prices to offset the higher cost of production. Okay, current supply can also be impacted by expectations about the future. And here it's important to think of the supply curve as measuring the quantity supplied for a commodity today. The commodity supplied for a commodity today. So, as a seller, if you expect the price that you can receive for selling something to be, let's say, higher in the future, well, that might reduce your willingness to sell a commodity today because you can sell it tomorrow at a higher price. Conversely, if as a seller you're expecting the price that you can sell a commodity for to be lower tomorrow, well, then you may very well increase your quantity supply today so that you can kind of take advantage of prices while they're high. As is maybe obvious to a lot of us, as the number of sellers in the marketplace rises, we're going to see an increase in supply, and conversely, as the number of sellers declines in the marketplace, we can expect to see a decrease in supply. Is this price of related goods? And when talking about how goods are related to one another, at least in the production sense, we have both substitutes and complements in production. Think of substitutes in production as commodities that can be easily produced in exchange for one another. So, corn versus wheat if you're a farmer, or diesel gasoline versus regular unleaded gasoline if you're a refinery. These will be substitutes in production. It doesn't take much to exchange production from one type of commodity and move it over to the other. Complements in production, on the other hand, are commodities that can be viewed as being produced together or in tandem. And it's oftentimes useful to think of complements in production where one commodity is the byproduct of another. So, cattle ranchers, when they produce beef, are also producing leather. Using more economic definitions, we can think of substitutes in production, and we can identify them when a price increase in one, commodity I, for instance, leads to a decrease in the supply of commodity J. And conversely, a decrease in the price of commodity I leads to an increase in the supply of commodity J. We'll do an example shortly. And for complements in production, we can identify two goods as being complements to one another when the price increase of the one, I, leads to an increase in supply of the other. And a price decrease in one leads to a decrease in supply of the other. And just kind of a quick example here of using substitutes, you'll think of wheat and corn. So if you're a farmer and you have an acre of land, you can pretty easily, within a growing season, substitute corn for wheat or wheat for corn. So wheat and corn might be really good examples of substitutes in production. And focusing on this left panel first, which is the market for wheat, if the price of wheat were to rise from P up to P prime, we can expect the quantity supplied to increase from Q out to Q prime. That's a movement up along the supply curve, because as prices rise, more and more farmers are going to find that the price of wheat falls above or lies above, and we're going to see an increase in the quantity supplied of wheat. Now, if you're going to produce more wheat on that 1 acre of land due to the price increase, that requires that you sacrifice the production of something else that was once being grown on that land. In this example, maybe corn. So here, even though the price of corn did not change, it stays at a price of P, we see that the supply curve for corn shifts inwards from S to S prime, and as a result, holding price is fixed, whereas the quantity supplied was once Q, now it is at a lower quantity, Q prime. Why is that? Because that 1 acre of land that farmers were once using to harvest corn is now being used to harvest wheat. The end.